Have you ever wondered, why does the market always seem to reverse the moment you place a trade, like it's playing a cruel joke on you? Sounds familiar, right? You buy because the price is surging, green candles flashing like fireworks, everyone's hyped, the news is shouting breakout. And then, boom, the market nosedives, taking your account and your confidence with it. You blame yourself. You think it's lack of experience, lack of skill, lack of the right indicators. But here's a truth that might shake you. You're not trading the market, you're trading your own untrained psychology. And this is the most painful part. 95% of traders lose not because of what's out there, but because of what's going on inside. Now picture this. Two traders, same chart, same signal. The first one sees the price spike, adrenaline hits, hands shaking, clicks buy, and 10 minutes later panics and cuts the loss. The second sees the exact same candle and does nothing. He waits for confirmation, follows his system, executes with cold precision, and hours later he exits with a profit, calmly, just as planned. Same market, same setup, but two completely different outcomes because of one thing: trading psychology. I used to be that first guy, over 100 painful losing trades, but it was the teachings of Mark Douglas that pulled me out of that hole. And in this video, I'm not giving you tips or magic formulas. I'm giving you 25 battle-tested lessons from Mark Douglas, author of Trading in the Zone, mindsets that saved me after 100 losing trades, and might just save you too. This is a journey inward, to understand your mind, to dismantle the false beliefs, and to rebuild the identity of a real trader. If you've ever lost without knowing why, if you're great at analysis but still can't make money, if you're exhausted by this mental game, then get ready. Your mental reboot starts right now. I lost 100 trades and I thought I was garbage. I used to think I was a decent trader. Not great, but not terrible either. I could read charts, wait for signals, set stop losses. I read books, watched webinars. I even backtested hundreds of trades. I thought that should be enough until my account evaporated after exactly 100 losing trades in a row. Yes, you heard that right, 100. Each trade was a stab to my confidence. Each click was a moment of hope, followed by disappointment. I started doubting myself, then hating myself, then resenting the damn market I thought I understood. The biggest question I ever asked myself was, where did I go wrong? Won the psychology trap. Killed me by trade number 5. At first, I stayed calm. The first 5 losses, I told myself, it's just a rough patch. By trade number 6, I increased position size to win it back fast. By trade number 10, I was glued to the screen like an addict. I skipped meals, lost sleep, my mind was filled with nothing but green candles and red candles. Every price alert made my heart race like a war drum. That wasn't trading anymore, that was panic. The raw reaction of a nervous system completely untrained to survive uncertainty. I was acting like a machine. No more strategy, no more analysis, only emotions running the show. Peak self-sabotage, and I was the executioner of my own trades. Half or 2. I lost control, and I blamed the market. Every loss triggered anger. I blamed the news, the broker, the widening spread, the whales hunting stops. Anything except myself. I remember once after a brutal stop out, I stood up and punched the wall so hard my hand bruised. A tidal wave of emotion. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't trading. I was fighting my own fear and shame. Share 3. Mark Douglas came back to me like a slap in the face. I had read Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas before, but only to know, not to live it. I thought he was being too philosophical. I wanted techniques. I wanted winning strategies. But after 100 red trades, staring at the bloody mess in my trading log, I remembered one line: you're not trading the market, you're trading your own psychology. I froze. I reread the entire book in one night. Not to find a formula, but to find myself on every page. And I finally understood the market wasn't against me. It didn't even care. The thing killing me was me, a faulty mindset, an untrained mind. 4. I didn't lack strategy. I lacked a mental operating system. I thought I was losing because I lacked skills, but no. I knew how to enter. I understood risk reward. I could recognize candlestick patterns. What I lacked was what Mark Douglas called a mental framework that can operate consistently under uncertainty. What does that mean? It means a psychological system that stays stable in the chaos of the market. I didn't have that. I had reactions, guesses, fear, and greed disguised as confidence. Now 5. Trading psychology, the thing I once ignored, became my lifeline. If someone asked me, what's the most important thing in trading? I wouldn't say technicals. I wouldn't say money management. I'd say this: trading psychology. Not as a theory, but as the ability to recognize and regulate your internal state when facing real risk with real money and real consequences. I used to ignore it, but it turned out to be the lever that separates you from the 95%. Hazure 6, the worst part wasn't losing money, it was losing myself. Losing 100 trades, the deepest pain wasn't financial, it was identity shattering. You start believing you're weak, worthless, not cut out for this. You see others flaunting their P&Ls and wonder, maybe trading just isn't for me? I wanted to quit, delete my accounts, go back to a safe, dull job, no risk, no emotion, no pain. But then a small thought held me back. If I'm the problem, then I can also be the solution. 7. This isn't a sob story. It's a recovery journey. I'm telling you this not to complain, but to say, if you're at rock bottom, I've been there. If you're self-destructing in trading, I know exactly how it feels. If you're about to quit, don't, because after 100 losing trades, what saved me wasn't a new system. It was a rebuilt mindset, thanks to the lessons of Mark Douglas. 8. From this moment on, you're no longer trading the market. You're trading yourself. That was the first shift and the biggest turning point of my journey. When I stopped fighting the market and started observing my own mind with honesty and patience. When I let go of trying to be right and began accepting risk, mistakes, and emotion as part of the game. Trading psychology isn't just a skill, it's a new identity. And if you're still stuck like I was, then walk with me in this video, because I'll share with you 25 life-saving lessons from Mark Douglas, the lessons that pulled me from the abyss after 100 losing trades, and might just save you right now. This is not a journey to find the market. This is a journey to rediscover yourself, your resilience, your discipline, and your freedom as a trader. You're not losing because of lack of skill. You're losing because of faulty beliefs. I used to think I lacked skills, lacked knowledge, lacked the right tools, and because I lacked those things, I kept losing. Then I met an old friend, someone I once took a trading course with years ago. He didn't study as deeply as I did, didn't backtest much, wasn't even great at technical analysis, and yet he was consistently profitable. I didn't get it. I asked, "What's your secret?" He looked at me, sipped his coffee, and said something soft, but it hit me hard. I don't try to predict the market. I just follow my system, and I trust myself. 1. Winning doesn't come from knowing more. It comes from believing right. That one sentence made me pause. I began to reflect on my beliefs, things I had always assumed were true, but were quietly sabotaging me every single day. I used to believe you have to predict the market to make money. The better your analysis, the higher your win rate. If I lose, it means I'm not good enough. But when I reread Trading in the Zone, Mark Douglas taught me a truth I had never dared to accept. You can be successful without knowing what's going to happen next, as long as you accept risk and act with discipline. Sounds simple, but it took me 100 losing trades to realize that this wasn't just a quote. It was a revolution in mindset. Sounds 2. Faulty beliefs are malware in your mind. Trading psychology isn't just about staying calm. It's the entire operating system of your mind, the thing that governs your thoughts, emotions, behavior, and ultimately, your results. I was infected with mental viruses like, the market must follow my analysis. If I lose, I'm a failure. If I won yesterday, I must win today. That's not the mindset of a trader, it's the mindset of a gambler disguised as an analyst. Mark Douglas called this the illusion of control, the false belief that you control what you actually cannot. The market doesn't owe you anything. It doesn't care about your predictions. You're not the center of it. And there's 3. 2 traders, 2 mindsets. Imagine 2 traders entering the same trade. Trader A enters, sets a stop loss, and stares at the chart every minute. Every pullback makes his heart race. Every tick towards stop loss feels like suffocation. If it loses, he blames the market. Or worse, he tries to get it back immediately with another trade. Trader B enters, sets a stop loss, turns off the chart, and goes to get a drink. If he wins, he logs it. If he loses, he logs it. No emotions, just execution. The difference isn't the strategy, it's the belief each one carries into the trade. Trader A believes, I must win, and win now. Trader B believes one trade means nothing, only disciplined repetition produces results. Now let me ask you, which trader are you? 4. Faulty beliefs destroy even the best systems. Once I built a pretty solid system, backtested to a 57% win rate. It worked well on demo, but when I went live, 3 early losses and I broke it. I changed the formula. I took random trades. I felt the market. What I didn't realize, I was destroying the very probability edge the system gave me, all because of one toxic belief. If the system is good, it shouldn't lose. But Mark Douglas wrote clearly, even a system with a 60% win rate will have losing streaks. Accepting that is what makes you a traitor. 5. I used to need wins to believe. Now I need belief to win. Faulty beliefs often fuel a deadly loop. I win, I feel confident I lose, I doubt myself. The more I doubt, the more I act erratically, the more I lose, and eventually I collapse. But Mark Douglas taught me something counterintuitive. Real confidence doesn't come from outcomes, it comes from doing the right thing over and over again. So I made a shift. I stopped judging myself by single trades. Instead, I asked, did I follow the system on this trade? If yes, win or lose, I accept it. If not, even if I won big, I treat it as a mistake. 6. Rewriting my operating system, from toxic beliefs to empowering truths. The first thing I did was write down every false belief I had. I must not lose. I need to know where the market is going before I enter. This trade is very important. Then I compared each one with lessons from Mark Douglas and rewrote them with truth. I accept losses as a natural part of the probability game. I don't need to predict. I need to follow my plan. One trade isn't important, consistent action is. 7. Trading is a battle of beliefs, not a battle of techniques. I stopped chasing new indicators, stopped hunting for the golden setup. I turned inward and relearned how I make decisions. Because trading isn't just about charts and execution. It's a game of beliefs, emotions, and behavior. And only when you understand what you truly believe can you act correctly beyond fear, greed, and ego. Hash 8. Manifesto, the mindset of a winning trader. Eventually, I wrote a personal manifesto, what I now call the mindset of a winning trader. I don't need to be right. I need to be consistent. I don't fight the market. I train myself. I don't trade to win. I trade to do the right thing. And I don't control results. I control behavior. I posted it on my screen. I read it every morning. And I remind myself, beliefs shape habits. Habits shape results. If you've ever lost and felt worthless, if you've ever blamed the system, the market, or bad luck, stop. Look inside. Maybe the thing holding you back isn't a lack of skill, but a belief you never questioned. In part 3, I'll show you how I rebuilt my belief system, starting from the smallest actions, using tools Mark Douglas taught me to break self-sabotage, regain mental stability, and reset myself one step at a time. Don't miss part 3, where you'll learn to rewire your trading psychology through experience, not just words. The invisible enemy, unprocessed emotions. You can't win a battle if you don't know who the enemy is. For me, the enemy wasn't the market, not the news, not the broker. It was something silent, dangerous, and living inside my own head. Emotions I hadn't yet decoded. I used to think, as long as I stayed calm, I'd be fine. But emotions aren't just fleeting feelings. They are a full-on biological, neurological, psychological system. And if you don't understand how it operates, you'll lose, even when your trades are right. Heshter 1. I didn't overtrade because I lacked knowledge. I overtraded because I lacked emotional control. Remember my long losing streak? It didn't start with a bad strategy. It started with a tiny emotion. Disappoint one losing trade. I lost my composure. I thought I have to make it back. And then I started overtrading, trade after trade, not because of analysis, not because of a system, but because of emotion. Mark Douglas once wrote, open quote, "You will never learn how to trade consistently until you understand how to monitor and manage your emotional responses." Close quote. I was living proof of that. I wasn't trading to make money. I was trading to fill an emotional void inside me. 2. Emotions in trading don't come from the market, they come from you. This lesson from Mark Douglas flipped my perspective. Open quote, "The market doesn't make you feel anything. It's your unresolved beliefs and expectations that trigger the emotions." Close quote. What does that mean? It means the rising price doesn't excite you. Your belief that you're about to make a lot of money does. Falling prices don't scare you. Your fear of loss and sense of failure do. Emotions don't live in the candles, they live in you. Hash 3, the most painful psychology, when emotion becomes the compass. Picture this scenario. Have you ever been there? You enter a trade based on a gut feeling that the market will rise. Price drops. You refuse to cut the loss because it might bounce. It keeps going against you. You get angry. You increase position size on the next trade to make it back and lose again. Lose again. That's the classic self-sabotage cycle. Emotion, impulse, reaction, loss, more emotion. Emotions drive impulsive action. Impulsive action leads to losses. Losses trigger more emotion. And now, you're trapped in a psychological cage of your own making. 4. Understand the brain, and you'll understand why you break your system. You're not just a trader with a laptop. You're a human with a brain wired for survival, not for trading. See a big red candle, your amygdala, fear center, sends out an alert. Cortisol spikes, heart races, breathing shortens, your body prepares for fight or flight. The result? You click out of instinct. No logic, no system. Mark Douglas understood this, which is why he taught. Open quote, until you've trained your mind to think in probabilities, your brain will react to each trade as a potential threat or reward. Close quote. As long as each trade feels like life or death, you are not yet a professional trader. Professional 5. I learned to accept risk and emotions started to fade. I used to fear losing because I thought loss meant failure. I feared stop losses because I thought stopping out was wrong. I feared missing trades because I believed each opportunity was the last one. Those were illusions, and illusions activate emotion. Emotion led me to overtrade. Until I practiced this truth from Mark. Open quote, risk acceptance is not a concept, it's a mental state. You have to feel neutral about losing. Close quote. I started writing a sentence in every trade journal. I accept the risk of this trade. I control my behavior, not the outcome. At first, they were just words, but over time, I believed them. I felt them. And then something amazing happened. When I fully accepted risk, the negative emotions dissolved. 6. 3 tools from Mark Douglas that help me neutralize emotional reactions. Tool number 1, probabilistic thinking. I stuck this line on my screen. Each trade is 1 out of 100. No one gets every trade right. I'm playing the probability game. This helped detach me from the emotions tied to individual trades. Tool number 2, intentional pre-trade ritual. Before entering any trade, I practiced a 10-second ritual. Deep breath. Review the system. Say aloud, I don't predict. I follow the system. This activated the rational brain and shut down the reactive brain. Tool number 3, emotional journaling. After every trade, I wrote 3 lines. 1, what was I feeling before the trade? 2, what emotions came up as price moved? 3, did I act based on emotion or based on system? This exercise helped me recognize myself and slowly decode the emotional patterns I had never even seen before. From reacting to choosing, the core transformation in trading. You can't eliminate emotion. You can't force yourself to not be afraid, but you can act beyond emotion. That's what separates a consistently profitable trader from one who's broken by the market. Mark Douglas wrote, open quote, successful traders have learned to think and act from choice, not reaction. Close quote. And I started to change. I stopped reacting. I started choosing not to enter just because I feel like it, choosing to sit out when the system says wait, choosing to lose one small trade to avoid a chain of large losses. That's real power, inner power, not the illusion of predicting the market. Hash 8, a strong mindset won't win instantly, but it will keep you alive long enough to win big. Someone once asked me, will strong psychology guarantee steady profits? I said no, but it'll stop you from killing yourself before the profits arrive. Because a system with a strong edge only works if you're still in the game long enough to apply it. I no longer chase the perfect setup. I chase emotional stability, because that's what keeps me in the game. If you've ever overtraded out of anger, clicked into a trade because you were bored or euphoric, cut a trade too early from panic, or refused to cut because you were afraid to be wrong, then pause. Take a breath and ask, do I really understand where these emotions come from? In part 4, I'll show you exactly how I rebuilt from risk acceptance step by step and how I created a psychological system strong as stone using Mark Douglas's practical tools. This isn't just about skill, it's the rebirth of mindset. I started with acceptance. Not easy, but absolutely worth it. Acceptance is not surrender. It's the beginning of power. Mark Douglas. After failing over 100 trades, I entered a state of emptiness. No more anger, no more blame, just one question that kept echoing in my head. What am I truly afraid of? Afraid of losing? Yes. Afraid of not being recognized? Also true. Afraid I'm not good enough, not worthy? That perhaps was the root. I used to think accepting risk was weakness. I'd heard it many times. To succeed in trading, you must accept risk. I'd nod and move on. I thought it was just a poetic way to justify losing trades. But when I revisited trading in the zone, I finally understood. Accepting risk isn't resignation. It's a mental state, a form of emotional mastery under uncertainty. In Chapter 5, Mark Douglas wrote something I'd read many times before, but only now did it truly land. Open quote, accepting risk means accepting the consequences of your actions without emotional discomfort or fear. Close quote. And I realized I had never actually accepted risk. I had merely tolerated it. 2. Tolerance is a trap. Acceptance is freedom. When you merely tolerate risk, you enter a trade with a defensive mindset. I hope this one doesn't lose. You set a stop loss, but you're glued to the screen. You hold your breath as price nears your stop. You want to move it farther, just in case. I lived in that state for months. That wasn't trading. That was psychological torture. But when you truly accept risk, you enter calmly. You know the result is beyond your control, so you stop trying to control it. Mark Douglas lesson number 7. Open quote, when you truly accept the risk, you eliminate the tendency to make trading errors. Close quote. 3. First exercise, rewrite the concept of losing. I started by redefining what losing meant to me. Before, I saw a loss as a mistake, a sign of incompetence, proof I wasn't good enough. Then I rewrote it. Open quote, a loss is the necessary cost of playing a probability game. It says nothing about my worth as a person. It's data, not a verdict. Close quote. I read this every morning before opening my charts. After just 1 week, the fear noticeably faded because I had separated emotion from outcome. 4. Second exercise, accept the loss before clicking the button. This was one of the most powerful lessons from trading in the zone. Open quote, you must be willing to lose money in order to make money. Close quote. It sounds paradoxical, but it's a core truth of trading. Here's what I began doing. Before each trade, I wrote down the exact risk amount in R. Then I said aloud, open quote, I accept the loss on this trade. I act according to the system, not the result. Close quote. Only then did I click buy or sell. The result? I still lost some trades, but the emotional storms disappeared. I began watching losses like I was watching someone else trade. It was the most mentally free I'd felt in 2 years of trading. Number 5, I stopped fighting individual trades and started playing the long game. Before, every trade felt like a life or death battle. Now I started thinking in series. 20 trades equals 1 cycle. Each trade equals just 1 of 20. I didn't need to be right on every trade. I needed to behave correctly 20 times in a row. I wrote on my whiteboard, open quote, 1 trade means nothing. I win because I'm consistent, not because I'm right. Win or lose, my actions stay the same. Close quote, this is probabilistic thinking, the foundation of risk acceptance. So habit number 6, I learned to stop expecting and stopped being disappointed. A huge part of risk acceptance is reducing expectations on individual outcomes. I used to expect this trade will win. This one must hit TP. If not, I'll feel frustrated or lose faith. But expectation is the seed of emotion, and emotion is the enemy of disciplined action. I learned to say, open quote, I don't expect this trade to win. I expect myself to act correctly. Close quote. Shifting the expectation from the market to myself was the most important turning point in my recovery. 7. Make acceptance a reflex, not just a concept. You might understand everything I just said and still not apply it, because risk acceptance isn't intellectual, it's habitual. Mark Douglas, Lesson 12, open quote, beliefs are not changed through logic, they are changed through experience, close quote. So I rebuilt my beliefs through repeated right action, even when I didn't fully believe at first. After 20 trades, I felt calmer. After 50 trades, I stopped checking my balance every day. After 100 trades, I realized I wasn't afraid anymore. Because I wasn't trying to avoid risk, I was living with it as something natural. Hash 8, strange truth. When you stop fearing loss, you start winning. The negative emotions, fear, panic, revenge trades, disappeared, and with them came consistency. I didn't need perfect setups. I needed a simple system and a disciplined mind to follow it. And then the miracle. Trading became profitable again. Steady, calm, unemotional. I share this story to tell you one simple truth, one that might change your entire trading life. Nobody fears the market. We only fear our own emotions when we lose. And only when you accept risk as an inseparable part of the game can you truly free yourself from the emotional prison and enter a new phase, acting with clarity, calmness, and conviction. In part 5, I'll show you how I redesigned my trading system, not just to find better entries, but to align with my psychology, nervous system, and natural rhythm. Because the best system isn't the most accurate one, it's the one you can actually execute in a stable, consistent, long-term state. Designing a system for psychology, not for prediction. You don't need to know what's going to happen next in order to make money. Mark Douglas. I used to believe that if I could predict the market's direction, I'd make money. I hunted for perfect setups. I gathered all the indicators. I analyzed charts like a fortune teller. And still, I lost. Not because my system was bad, but because it wasn't compatible with my psychology. It made me lose control, react impulsively, doubt myself constantly. 1. A good system means nothing if you can't stay mentally grounded. Here's a painful truth. You can have a good system, but if you can't stick to it, it's worthless. I once had a system with a 62% win rate, risk reward of 1-2, back-tested, consistent profits, paper trading, consistent profits, live account, disaster. Why? Because I couldn't follow it when real money, real emotions, and real pressure entered the room. I feared missing out. I moved stop losses, I exited early, I took trades on impulse. The problem wasn't the system. The problem was a mind not designed to execute that system. 2. Mark Douglas taught me a system is for execution, not prediction. In Trading in the Zone, lesson number 15 says, open quote, your edge has nothing to do with being right or wrong. It's about having a higher probability over a series of trades. Close quote. Meaning, a system isn't meant to predict each trade. It's meant to give you an edge over time if you act consistently. Probability mindset is the foundation, but the key is, can your psychology handle the repetition without deviation? I stopped chasing perfect systems and started building systems aligned with my nervous system. I used to system hop, lose 3 trades, abandon the strategy, see someone post a new system, try it immediately, always hunting the holy grail. But the more I searched, the more lost I became. Until I read this line from Mark, open quote, your system doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be something you can execute with confidence and consistency. Close quote. So I stopped asking, how accurate is this system? Does it filter out noise? And I started asking, can I run this system for 100 trades without burning out? Does it match my biology, my habits, and my mindset? HAR 4, I created my 3 no's, 3 yeses system rules. 3 no's, no top-bottom picking, no emotional trades, no mid-trade rule changes. 3 yeses, clear and simple entry, only 2 conditions, fixed risk management, R equals 1% per trade, pre-trade checklist to anchor my psychology. I stopped trying to make it complex. I chose a system so simple it's boring, but I can run it all year long. HAR 5, my pre-trade checklist, the bridge from instinct to discipline. Before any trade I run through, is the setup valid? Is the risk reward at least 1 to 2? Have I accepted the potential loss? Is my emotional state neutral? Is there any reason to trade outside the system? Only if all 5 boxes are checked do I place the trade. This isn't routine for routine's sake. It's designed to activate the prefrontal cortex, rational brain, before the amygdala, emotional brain, hijacks me. 6. I shifted from beautiful trades to correct trades. I used to chase textbook entries, engulfing candles, strong support zones, trendline touches, and I still lost because I was trading on inspiration, not on system. Now, I don't care if it looks beautiful. I only care to meet the rule I wrote. On my desk, I wrote, open quote, pretty doesn't matter, correct does, close quote. Step 7. I matched timeframes and trading hours to my psychology fries. I used to trade the 5-minute chart because price action is exciting, but it made me overreact. Every twitch felt like life or death. My heart raced, my stress spiked, so I moved to H1 and H4 timeframes. I only trade during the London session when I'm most alert. I skip New York. I'm too tired and prone to mistakes. A system isn't just technical, it should align with your rhythms and lifestyle.
8.
I trade in cycles, 20 trades per round, no emotional judgment per trade before. Every trade was a drama. Win, ecstasy. Lose, spiral. Now I evaluate results every 20 trades, not one by one. Because I understand, a system with 60% win rate will have losing streaks of 5 to 7 trades. That's normal. I don't judge trades, I judge series. This is what Mark Douglas meant by discipline. Open quote, consistency is your edge, not prediction, close quote. Hatter 9, I don't predict anymore. I repeat, this is my compass. Open quote, I don't predict the market, I execute my edge. Close quote, I don't know where price will go. I don't need to, I just need to have a clear reason to enter, manage risk properly, follow the system over 20 trades. If I do those three things, I've already outperformed 95% of traders. National Shard 10, I don't use systems to control the market, I use them to control myself. A system can't move price, but it can control my behavior if I stay loyal to it. That's why I love my system, not because it's genius, but because it keeps me in a psychologically safe zone. I'm not a genius. I didn't invent the Holy Grail, but I designed a system I can actually execute with calm, discipline, and confidence. Because the best system isn't the most accurate one. It's the one you can hold on to when everything else falls apart. In part 6, I'll show you how I rebuilt belief, confidence, and a winning mindset. Not from results, but from intentional action. It's the most important part of removing emotional viruses and reinstalling a new internal map for trading psychology. Your system must match your brain, not someone else's. Open quote, no system is good if it keeps you awake at night. Mark Douglas, close quote. I remember reading that line. At the time, I didn't truly understand it. I thought, as long as the system is profitable, I'll follow it. I just need to be stronger, more disciplined, more patient. But I was wrong. Very wrong. The first system I followed came from a highly successful trader, Emma Hoffenheim, but it drove me absolutely insane. It had only a 35% win rate, but a 1-3 RR. On paper, a money printing machine. The problem? After just 7 losses in a row, I began to doubt myself. I abandoned the system, switched to one with a higher win rate, and the cycle repeated. Lose, switch, lose trust, breakdown. Then I reread a chapter in Trading in the Zone in Contentments, and this one sentence stopped me cold. Open quote, your system must align with your beliefs, your emotions, and your risk tolerance. If it doesn't, it will eventually destroy you. Mark Douglas, close quote. That's when it hit me. Trading psychology isn't something you fix later. It comes first. It's the foundation. It's what determines which system is actually right for you. Trading psychology is the DNA of your system. Have you noticed? Some traders crush it with pure price action. Others thrive using robots, indicators, swing trades, or scalping, not because their systems are more correct, but because their system matches their psychological rhythm and neurological wiring. Mark Douglas emphasized, open quote, there is no ideal market, only an ideal trader for their system. Close quote. I rebuilt from the brain out, not the screen. In here are the 4 steps hook, and you can begin them today. Step 1, identify your biological responses. I started journaling, not just wins and losses, but questions like, when does my heart race? When do I want to click without clarity? Which trades keep me up at night? Am I feeling hopeful, fearful, or excited when I look at charts? I realized I couldn't handle systems with low win rates and long drawdowns. Even if the long-term profit was good, my brain couldn't survive it. One of Mark Douglas's recurring lessons. Open quote, don't force yourself to trade in a way that triggers panic. Close quote. Step 2, design a system that matches your heartbeat. I made adjustments, reduced position size, increased win rates slightly, added filters for fewer, higher quality entries. Most importantly, I wrote the rules in my own language, not copy-pasted from someone's PDF. Each trade stopped feeling like a gamble. It became a step in a system tailored to my mind. Step 3, validate emotionally through journaling. After every trade, I added emotional notes. Did I feel relief from following my rules? Did I feel regret for not chasing price? Did I resent the system or feel grateful for it? After a few weeks, something strange happened. I lost and stayed calm. I won and felt no ego. I slept well. Step 4, tie the system to my identity. I stopped calling myself the emotional trader. I started identifying as the trader who builds systems for his own psychology. No more copying, no more blind following. I took full responsibility for every rule, every stop loss, every expectation. At that point, Mark Douglas's lessons stopped being theory. They became the backbone of my behavior. Most traders make the mistake of using systems to suppress emotion, but emotions don't disappear. They just get buried until they explode when you're least in control. Ask yourself, is the system you're using truly aligned with your psychology? Or are you forcing yourself to act disciplined while your inner world crumbles? Are your 100 losing trades the result of poor analysis or a system that doesn't belong to your nervous system? Trading psychology is the core, not an add-on. Mark Douglas made it clear. Open quote, "The system is just a framework. Psychology determines whether you make money or not." Close quote. You can buy a system, you can hire an expert, you can download free tools, but you can't download a psychology that fits you. You have to build it through experience, through journaling, through every time you rise after a breakdown. Today's assignment for you: open your most recent trading journal. Write down the last 5 times you felt stress, tension, insomnia, or even anger. Look for patterns. What type of trades? What time of day? What setups? Now ask yourself, is this system really right for me? If not, it's time to begin redesigning, not to win faster, but to survive longer. A good system is one that makes you comfortable with losing. When your system aligns with your psychology, you no longer fight yourself every day. You can lose and still sleep well, win without delusion, and trade as a natural extension of who you are. No tension, no fear, no forcing. That's what 100 losing trades taught me, and that's exactly what Mark Douglas has been trying to teach all along. I don't need to predict, I need a mechanism to execute. You don't need to know what's going to happen next in order to make money. Mark Douglas. That quote used to piss me off. How could anyone trade without knowing what's coming next? Isn't every candlestick, every indicator, every chart pattern trying to tell us this is where price is headed? I believed that if I analyzed deeply enough, smart enough, long enough, I would know in advance. And if I knew, I would win. What a terrible mistake. 1. The toxic loop called "I must be right." Let me walk you through a typical day in the life of my former trader self. I'd spend 2 hours in the morning analyzing charts, drawing support resistance, checking news, gauging sentiment. I'd place a trade with a seemingly logical plan, but my hands would shake and my eyes stayed locked on every pip. Price moved up, then reversed. I got stopped out. I'd think I must have misread the chart. So I reanalyzed, re-entered, and lost again. I wasn't trading, I was trying to predict. And prediction is the fastest way to get crushed. Hap 2. What I learned from Mark Douglas, lesson number 14, systems don't predict, they operate. Douglas made it clear, open quote, "The consistency you seek is in your mind, not in the market." Close quote. The market is inherently inconsistent. It's chaotic, nonlinear. It doesn't owe you logic, but you can be consistent. If you have a system that allows you to repeat the same actions without emotion, suddenly the light came on. I didn't need to know what the next candle would be. I only needed to know if X happens, I do Y with zero emotion. 3. I rebuilt my system. Starting with simplicity, I wiped out all indicators, kept just 2 things, price action and a clear scenario. Example, open quote, "If price retests a broken resistance zone with low volume and forms a rejection candle, I short. SL equals 1R, TP 2R. If price moves against me immediately, I exit." Close quote dot, no guessing, no assumptions, no reacting to news. Just a pre-written scenario, executed like a trained soldier. I tracked every trade. After 50 trades, I didn't just see market patterns. I saw patterns in my own behavior. Hester 4. I learned how not to react. One of the Mark Douglas quotes I taped to my wall. Open quote, "Anything can happen." Close quote. Sounds obvious, but to internalize it, that's a psychological revolution. Before every trade, I'd remind myself, this trade could win or lose. I don't need this trade to win. I only need to act correctly. That freed me from attachment and expectation. I stayed calm even when price moved against me. No more adjusting trades midway. No more dragging stop losses. No more clinging to hope. 5. Great trading isn't about being right, it's about executing right. I finally saw it clearly. Great traders aren't the ones who know where the market is going. They're the ones who have an edge, execute it relentlessly, stay with it through losing streaks. That was the opposite of my old self, who restructured everything after 2 losing trades. I didn't have an edge. I had fear, I had chaos. And number 6, I built rules and started living by them. I wrote a simple rule book. No trades without a valid setup, no changing plans mid-trade, end of day journaling, 3 things done right, 1 to improve, stop after 3 trades a day, no matter what. I still broke the rules sometimes. But when I did, I punished myself. Take a day off, review my journal, rewrite my thought process. Trading psychology was no longer a vague concept. It was my weapon, my armor. The difference between survival and self-destruction. Tender 7, from expectation to execution, my inner revolution. One day I placed a trade. Price moved instantly against me, but I calmly closed it. No panic, no frustration, no revenge trade. I smiled. For the first time in months, I felt free. Not because I won, but because I did the right thing. I wrote down lesson number 18. Open quote, your job is to execute, not to be right. Close quote. Mon 8, I embraced uncertainty, and that's when I started winning. An immature trader hates uncertainty. A professional embraces it and learns to live within it. Mark Douglas said, open quote, when you truly believe that trading is simply a probability game and you internalize this belief, you'll stop expecting. Close quote. I stopped hoping for price to go my way. I simply asked, is this setup valid? If yes, I enter. If not, I wait. And slowly, my results improved. Not because I found some secret strategy, but because I found consistency in behavior. 9. Trading psychology became a living system. I wrote 5 core psychological rules that I now live by. 1. I don't know the future, and I don't need to. 2. I only act on high probability setups without emotion. 3. I trust my system. 4. I accept risk as part of the game. 5. I trade not to be right, but to stay consistent. Every morning I reread these. Every night I reflect on them. I no longer need motivation to trade. I have discipline. I have a system. I have self-awareness. What I needed wasn't prediction. It was truth. The truth is, no one knows the next candle. The traders who make money aren't better at guessing. They're better at executing. Mark Douglas saw this decades ago. Trading is not a game of intelligence. It's a game of psychology, of precise repetition, of mastering yourself from within. See you in part 7, where I dive deeper into this truth. I can't control results, but I can control me. You may already have a system, but do you have the mindset of an executor? Keep going. The journey has just begun. Discipline is freedom. When discipline becomes liberation. If you can learn to create a state of mind that's not affected by the market's behavior, the struggle will cease to exist. Mark Douglas, Trading in the Zone. I used to think discipline was a cage, a chain of rigid rules that strangled my freedom. I hated discipline because in my mind, freedom meant doing what I felt like, entering trades when it felt right, cutting losses when I smelled danger, reversing positions based on gut instinct. But after 100 losing trades, I came face to face with a painful truth. Without discipline, you don't have freedom. You're just a slave to emotions, to dopamine, to instinctual reaction. 1. The illusion of freedom and its hidden cost. Back then, I traded like a free spirit. No rules, no journal, no plan. I did what I liked. FOMO, I jumped in. Regret, I held longer. Fear, I bailed. That sense of being in control was addictive. Until I realized I wasn't in control of anything. I was simply reacting to the market, like a lab rat hitting a button for another hit of dopamine. Real freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's knowing what you're doing and being able to choose not to do it. That's one of the first truths Mark Douglas slammed into my face. 2. Discipline isn't effort. It's structure. One day I documented every moment I broke my own trading plan. I saw a pattern. After a winning streak, I got overconfident, went all in like a poker god. After a losing streak, I revenge traded, chasing miracles. In sideways markets, I forced trades out of boredom and drowned in fake signals. Same emotions, same mistakes, same chaos. Mark Douglas said, open quote, the market doesn't generate your feelings, you do, close quote. I realized I didn't need more willpower. I needed a structure. a system I couldn't easily break. So I started printing my rules as a checklist and taping it to my desk, limiting the number of trades per day using trade manager tools, installing alerts on MT4. When daily drawdown hit a limit, the system shut down automatically. The more I automated, the less I was tempted. Discipline didn't come from grit, it came from design. 3. Repetition gave birth to flow. At first, following rules felt robotic, dry, emotionless. But over time, I began to feel something else: real freedom. I no longer hesitated before trades, no longer obsessed after losses, no longer juggled 10 ideas in my head. I just did what the system told me to do. And one day I realized I had entered flow, that calm, smooth, effortless state where fear and hope dissolve. That's when I understood what trading legends meant. Open quote, trading is simple, but not easy. Close quote. Simple because success comes from doing the right thing over and over. Not easy because the mind wants complexity and chaos. 4. The trading journal I once mocked became my mirror. I'll be honest, I used to think journaling was for nerds, but when I got serious, I discovered its power, the power to have an honest conversation with myself. For every trade I wrote, why I entered, my emotional state, the outcome, what I should have done. Patterns emerged. I saw when I got reckless, when I doubted myself, when I traded just because life felt empty. Journaling made me an observer of my mind. No judgment, no denial. That was the beginning of real inner freedom. Number 5, consistency doesn't come from winning. It comes from right action. I used to measure performance by profit, but that chained me to results, and results are driven by probability. Mark Douglas taught me something more important. Open quote, you can't control outcomes. You can only control your behavior. Close quote. So I shifted my measurement. How many trades followed the plan? How many were off time, off setup, off emotion? How often did I betray myself? I set a new weekly goal. Open quote, 100% right actions, regardless of profit or loss. Close quote. Not easy, but it slowly built a new identity, a trader with integrity. 6. When discipline became joy. At first, I thought discipline was all about grinding, about suppressing instinct, but eventually, discipline became my new instinct. I didn't have to force it anymore. I started enjoying the checklist. I loved the clarity. I loved the peace of standing still while the market went wild. Discipline became peace. 3 daily practices I still do. If you ask me what I still do every day to stay disciplined, here they are. Evening review. Open every chart. Review the journal. Reflect on what I did right or wrong. Morning visualization. Close my eyes and mentally rehearse a perfect session from plan to exit. 10-second pause before every trade to silently remind myself, open quote, I choose right action even if my emotions disagree. Close quote. 8. Mark Douglas lesson number 17, open quote, discipline is not a trait, it's a skill. Close quote. You weren't born disciplined or undisciplined. Discipline is a skill, and skills are built day by day with the right tools and training. 9. One honest minute. There are still days I want to break my rules. There are still days I get mad at losses. I'm still human. But here's what's changed. I no longer act on emotions. I act based on the standards I chose for myself. That's a kind of freedom I never had when I started. Discipline isn't rigid. It's the frame that lets you fly without crashing. And once you've tasted what it feels like to trade without being controlled by panic, fear, or dopamine, you'll never want to go back. Open quote, discipline is the bridge from where you are to where you want to be. Close quote. I no longer try to control my psychology. I've become someone else. You don't need to be right to make money. You need to think in probabilities. One of Mark Douglas's lessons I once skimmed without grasping until I became it. I used to be a trader, trapped in the illusion of control, trying to stay calm, trying to follow the system, trying not to let emotions take over, always trying, until one day I realized the master of trading psychology isn't the one who suppresses emotions, but the one no longer defined by them. Chapter 1, Identity Shift, Rewiring the Trading Self. Back when I still saw myself as a retail trader, I believed each win or loss was a reflection of my worth. Winning trade equals I'm smart. Losing trade, I'm dumb. I'm weak. I'm a failure. Completely wrong. Trading is not an IQ contest. It's not a stage to prove you knew what the market would do. Trading is the art of execution in a world where anything can happen. So I began rebuilding my trading identity. I'm not a bottom picker or top caller. I'm a probability executor. I'm a system follower. I'm the one who lets the market do its job. I don't control outcomes. I control my actions. That I realized is what Mark Douglas truly meant by real trading psychology. Chapter 2. Emotions are no longer the enemy. Back then, every spike in price sent a jolt of fear through me. Every trade triggered a pounding heart. A stop loss made me angry. A take profit filled me with euphoria. I thought I had to eliminate those emotions. But no, you can't kill emotion. You can only learn to walk with it without letting it drive. I learned to observe emotions as internal variables. I journaled not just price, but my emotional state before, during, and after each trade. I practiced recognizing what I was feeling without acting on it. Trading psychology isn't cold-blooded indifference. It's emotional maturity, knowing when you're being led astray and calmly returning to center. Chapter 3. From Judgment to Acceptance. One quote changed everything. Open quote, anything can happen. Mark Douglas. Close quote. I used to demand every trade be right, be a winner, be worthy of my analysis. But in a probabilistic world, even the most irrational outcome is possible. So I shifted from judging the market to accepting the market. I stopped asking, open quote, why did it do that? And instead asked, did I follow my system? Close quote. If yes, I proceed. If not, I pause. No shame, no blame. I stopped assigning meaning to losing trades. They no longer defined failure, just probability playing out. I learned, reflected, and moved forward. No longer dependent on emotion. I once thought, open quote, when I've finally made enough money, I'll be free, close quote. But now I understand freedom comes when your identity no longer hinges on win or loss. I remember after 8 consecutive losing trades, I placed the 9th one with a quiet mind. No revenge, no doubt, just presence. I knew the system was still valid. I was still executing. The market was still the market. And that 9th trade, a winner. Big enough to recover the entire streak. Not because I got lucky, but because I had become a different trader. Chapter 5. Meeting my old self and not being him anymore. One day, I looked back at my old trading journals. They were filled with rage, confusion, and self-loathing. How could I be so stupid? Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. The market is always against me. And I laughed, because I saw a version of myself that no longer had power over me. Like an addict who's kicked the habit, looking at the needle and feeling nothing. I no longer try to control my psychology. I've rebuilt a new identity, a mature trader. I've become the lesson. I no longer memorize Mark Douglas's words. They've become part of my bloodstream. Chapter 6. Trading psychology is no longer theory. I used to think trading psychology was vague advice. Control your emotions. Trust your system. Stay calm. But not anymore. Trading psychology is the operating system behind every action. It determines whether you react or execute. When a trade loses, I observe. When fear arises, I acknowledge. When tempted to break the system, I return to principle. When the market surprises me, I don't flinch, because surprise is now expected. That's the power Mark Douglas left us. Not a technical system, but a psychological framework, steady as steel, fluid as water. I no longer trade for money. I trade for my own honor. Strangely enough, when I stopped focusing on money, my account grew. When I focused on right action, results followed naturally. Trading has become a reflection of my discipline, inner strength, and maturity. It's no longer a battle against the market. It's a daily dialogue with myself. Each moment, each trade. If you're walking this path too, if you've endured 100 losing trades like I have, if you've once believed you were garbage, understand this. You don't need to try harder to change. You need to become someone new. And to become, you must begin to live as if you already are that person, starting today. Phoenix Protocol, reborn from the ashes. The day I took my 100th losing trade, I sat frozen in front of the screen. No more anger, no more hope, no more fear. Only one thing remained: silence. I call it the ashes moment. 1. The death of the trading ego. You know, for the first few months of trading, I thought I was special. I told myself I'm a fast learner. I've read Mark Douglas. I won't make the same mistakes as others. I just need a few hacks, a few setups. I'll be fine. I thought a lot, but I didn't realize I was being led by ego. I wasn't trading the system. I was trading to prove something about myself, about my worth, about not being a failure. I call this person the ego trader. And on the 100th loss, that person died.
Yes.
2. Rebirth is not returning, it's becoming. I went numb for a week. No charts, no analysis, no news. I walked. I meditated. I wrote. Then something strange happened. I began to feel the truth of who I was, beyond winning and losing. I no longer hated myself for losing, no longer glorified myself for winning. I just saw a larger force at work. I realized trading hadn't killed me. It had stripped away the mask I'd clung to. I didn't need to bounce back. I needed to be reborn. And that's when the Phoenix Protocol began, not as a strategy to trade better, but as a process to become a real trader. 3. Phoenix Protocol, the process of rebirth. Step 1. Rewrite truth, not stories. I rewrote all 100 losing trades. No sugarcoating, no blaming, no defending. I documented. Why did I enter the trade? What was I feeling at the time? Were there signs I was violating my system? What was I running from? I discovered 80% of my losses weren't due to the market, they were due to my broken emotional state. I didn't need a new strategy. I needed the truth, and the truth saved me. Step 2. Erase every expectation I used to expect. Every trade must be profitable. I must recover losses immediately. I must earn consistently every month. I erased all of it. Now I write one line each morning before I trade. Open quote, I am not here to win. I'm here to execute my principles, one trade at a time. Close quote. Trading stopped being a means to get something out there. It became a mirror to look inward. Step 3. Train the mind. Like a warrior, I no longer viewed trading as a logic game. I approached it as mental martial arts. I meditated before opening charts. I reread Mark Douglas like sacred scripture, not a manual. I tracked my breath and emotions during every session. I built a psychological ecosystem, so when battle began, I wasn't swept away by emotion. Step 4. Redesign the system for my true self. My old system looked great on paper, but it didn't fit who I was. I was impulsive. I couldn't sit still for setups, so I didn't change to fit the system. I changed the system to fit me. I moved to higher time frames, reduced my trades per week, added rules like no trading when stressed, sleep deprived, or emotionally agitated. Your system must serve your best state, not force you into someone else's mold. Step 5. Rebuild identity. Who am I without a winning trade? I rewrote what successful trader means to me. No longer someone who makes 5% a month, someone who perfectly catches tops and bottoms, but rather someone who maintains discipline no matter the volatility, someone who can lose correctly and still trust the system, someone who trades without needing the market's approval. I became the trader Mark Douglas described, a probability executor with unshakable belief. 4. I traded again, and I wasn't the same person. The first time I returned to the market post-Phoenix, I noticed something strange. My hand didn't shake. I didn't check the charts obsessively. I had zero expectations. I entered the trade and made coffee, set my stop, and forgot about it. Followed my plan without judging myself. I had escaped the cage of hope, the cage of fear, the cage of I must win. I was free, not because I knew what would happen, but because I had learned how to live with not knowing. Number 5, Phoenix isn't a bird, it's a choice. Maybe you're at rock bottom, maybe you've lost 100 trades, maybe you've stopped believing in yourself, but you still have a choice. Not to return, but to rise. Not to recover, to transform. Not to fight the market, but to flow with it. Mark Douglas didn't just teach me how to trade, he taught me how to walk out of the ashes and fly, no longer as a fearful creature. Number 6, you can die and be reborn. As many times as it takes, trading is not where you win forever. It's where you let your old self die and come back deeper, stronger, wiser. That's why I'm sharing all 25 lessons from Mark Douglas with you. Not so you can memorize them, but so you can come back to yourself after you've fallen. The Phoenix Protocol isn't in any book. It lives in your heart. The moment you choose to face your failure and keep going without needing a promise of success. You've just heard all 25 lessons. You've walked through every pain, every breakdown, every step of rebuilding yourself. But now it's your turn to choose. Do you want to keep being a trader who tries to be right, or do you want to become someone who can truly survive? I don't need to know where you are on this journey. Maybe you're stuck in your 10th straight loss. Maybe you just blew up a system you spent 3 months building. Maybe you feel alone, like misunderstood, drowning in self-doubt. I just want you to remember one thing. It was from the ashes that the phoenix rose. You don't need to be perfect to begin. You just need an unbreakable commitment, a commitment to becoming the best version of yourself, not just in trading, but in how you face your mind, your emotions, and the truth. And if you're ready to let go of impulsive destructive trading, ready to rebuild your system, your psychology, your identity, ready to rise, not as someone lucky to win a few trades, but as a warrior who has walked through fire and come out knowing who they are, then welcome. Welcome to the world of real traders, where you no longer need to predict the market because you've come to understand yourself. Now it's time to act. Hit subscribe if you found value in this journey. Share this video with someone drowning in their own trading psychology. And comment below, I commit, I rise. So I know you've chosen this path. I'm a trader who once lost 100 trades. But thanks to the lessons of Mark Douglas, I didn't just survive, I became someone the market could never break. You can be that too. If you dare, if you're honest, and if you begin today, let the phoenix rise.